Yeah. Right. Welcome to DXgov governance discussion for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. Sharing my screen for the agenda here. Proposal roundup first, as always, a bunch on Mainnet. Really love to see, and then a couple ones on Gnosis chain that are worth the attention. And then for discussion items, there's 3 ones I want to touch on a little bit. We have I guess we can call it gradient presentation from Keenan on the vision, mission, and strategy statements, an update from him there. And then just 2 interesting kind of posts that I think are in the forum now that maybe could use our attention here that get some maybe soft consensus to see how those would move forward maybe this week. And then, yeah, a couple things worth checking out there. So let's start with Mainnet Proposal Roundup. So I actually have the DXvote one up here. It's nice with the DXvote when you can see kind of everything at once, even though I prefer to look at the individual proposals in Alchemy there. But yeah, going over the proposals here, we have a February 2023 token claim from Nathan. I voted for this, as did Nathan. Nathan has been doing these every month. I think to claim his DXD there. So it's become more regular. Then there's a wrap 400 ETH proposal. So this is using the Mimic wrapping vault. So you just send the ETH to this vault and it automatically sends it back as WETH. This is so that there is WETH in the treasury for cow swap orders, which require WETH there. So we have to wrap it there. And so we'll get to the cow swap order in a few proposals. There's the CMAN to 3 member balancer redemption proposal corrected. You can see here he follow up on and confirm the information there. D Labs and Kinney for voted for this there. So that is one of 2 member balancer proposers that are in the queue. And then, yeah, we have this cow swap liquidity order for 400 WETH for WETH DXD. And this is part of the new token model, of course. And this is, I think, just the second liquidity order of this size. And Dave, I don't know if you, is there anything that if people want to participate in this or sell into this, they will do through the cow swap UI? Is there any other maybe advice on accessing this? I know that the last time there was a little bit of difficulty with that. Oh, Dave, I think you're muted if you are trying to. Oh, it's on the streets of Tel Aviv right now. Set up limit order. So you do have to do a limit order on cow swap. Okay, that's the key, right? So you do have to go to the cow swap UI and set a limit order for the DXD. There is also another cow swap DXD order that is in the queue that is, I think, passing in 11 days or 12, or would pass in 12 days. That will be another 400 WETH one. So you can see there's a couple different ways of supporting the new token model. And I think the cow swap ones are very cool to be using. And just as like a shout out, there was some discussion about the ENS DAO and how they were using cow swap for their orders there. And it was kind of, I think Hasu said something about it's cool that a DAO is doing it. And it was nice to say that DXDAO has been doing this on Mainnet since November and on Gnosis chain since September there. So we have
Chris on those orders, which are DXD against WETH. Those levels that are part of the liquidity orders, are those the 70% NAV calculated and then turned into a WETH amount at the time of creating the order?
Yeah, I think you can see Dave is saying WETH, yes, right? Yes and no. Not at the time, at the time the order is created, not the time it's executed. So this is what the limit price is for that. And this was submitted January 26, right? So that was like the WETH amount there. And that is taken, you can see that's taken from this right here. So this is what you could submit a member balancer in just ETH. This is like the actual like ETH level of that. And that stays relatively constant because it's not as affected as opposed to if it's like, if ETH moves a lot, then the dollar price is affected a lot. So that's why We prefer to do some of the WETH orders here, but this is basically calculated this number from the Treasury dashboard, and then it's submitted there, and then voted on chain. And so, like, again, if the price moved a lot in a different direction, we could vote it down. But unfortunately, right now, DXgov does not get the liquidity surplus from doing this. So it basically is like a limit order. It doesn't actually get the existing on-chain liquidity. But it's kind of, Does that make?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only interesting thing you can notice is if, this price does change a little bit if ETH moves up a lot or moves up and down, because the Treasury is only 2/3 ETH. So there is some adjustment there. I want to also, because Dave's been submitting most of these liquidity orders. I've submitted a couple of the CalSwap ones, but I'm not as familiar with it. So it's on my to-do this week to submit one just to get familiar with it as well. I think the ETH orders are good, but that does, if you look at the member balance or redemption proposals, those are coming in 2/3 ETH and 1/3 stablecoin. So that keeps the Treasury more balanced versus we're just selling the ETH that disrupts the Treasury balance a little bit. So it'd be interested if ETH doesn't move around so much, we could be using some of the dollar ones as well. But we basically have one. There's a 500K one right now that's $100, $120 off of what it's currently trading at. So it's just not being picked up at all because it's a huge movement.
Gotcha. And that's the liquidity. That's a dollar-based liquidity order rather than an ETH-based liquidity order. Makes sense.
So those there. And then we have DXgov 2023 Q1 funding stipend. So Ross from DXgov is on the other side of the world these days. So we'll probably most of the time not be on these calls, at least for that. But this is I think this is the first stipend to come from the guild. So these were contingency costs approved in the 1H 2023 budgets for DXgov. And then this is the request of those funds directly so that the guild can then disperse of them. And I believe there is probably an operations guild one also probably coming. I think that might be actually in the forum. Yeah, that's right. It's in the forum for that. And you can kind of see how this process goes of getting contingency requests and then having to go through again and approve those. So that's the funding stipend. As I said, I think Ross voted as did Caney Fork. And then, we have request return of DXD sent to DXDAO by mistake. So this is a proposal that's been submitted a little bit. And this guy, I think, had, it was a long time ago that and here's a little shout out there for a little dark mode for either scam. But he had sent his DXD to the token contract. So it's stuck in the token contract. And this is just him requesting that back because we can upgrade the token contract to the DXD. Big shout out to Wayne for walking this person through this. I know that I saw it in Discord a little bit, and it can be a little daunting to do the proposal. But I voted for this and it's set to pass in 3 days. And then we have a reimburse 0.4066 ETH for ENS renewals. This is Caney Fork. I did this last week. I think it's for docs.eth and mesa.eth. You can see here these were set to expire earlier this month. So went ahead and you have to purchase. I did 2 years here for docs ETH and mesa ETH. And then this is the refunding of that gas one. So if you feel inclined, please do vote.
Can Davi do that directly via proposal instead of using member balancer?
That's a good question.
Like if the DAO could actually, there's whether DXDAO can do it. I guess DXDAO could do it itself.
Yeah, I'm not exactly.
Do it.
It looks like you. Yeah, I assume. I don't exactly know how, but Possibly. It's a good shout for something. Yeah, and then next up we have DXgov Guild 2023 Q1 funding. So this was also contingency cost, and DXgov was looking for another smart contract developer. Also happens to be named Federico, so another one there. He's been doing kind of trial work and for the last month or so, and I think an area of focus will be on Governance 2.0, which is obviously an important deliverable in DXgov, but also DXDAO's first half in 2023. So I think this is for the 3 months of pay for that one, and I believe it's being sent to the multi-chain multi-sig, where then it will be passed on to the DXgov guild. And then we have remove old contribution reward scheme. So this was submitted by Adam, and so I'll recall that when we on DXDAO, right, on mainnet, on both pages actually, we have two of the same scheme, because with only the difference being the new one prevents any proposals from having multiple redeems in it, and so this proposal would deregister the old contribution scheme right here. It says 0 votes here, but I guess what I'm showing you is that I tried to vote for it 2 hours and 7 minutes ago. Where did I put it? 29.5. I thought that would be picked up, but gas elsewhere. But yeah, so that's a remove old contribution reward that has been in the queue for a little bit. It was actually, you can see, submitted a long time ago there. Okay, and we have, should be Adam's proposal. I'm not sure why it's not there. Yeah, we can see that here. So this is Adam's contributor proposal for November to December 2022. Got a lot of good information and good links on some of the work, of course, that Adam has done across Swapper and NIMI, doing a lot of the technical heavy lifting for both those and leading the technical efforts there. Great to see it on mainnet. So 5.5 days, still no votes. So hopefully when gas comes down a little bit. And as you said, we had the other Molotov redemption balancer number 3. So you can see, Molotov is facilitating. If you see DXD that's trading cheap below the redemption price, it's advantageous to buy that up and then submit a member balancer proposal. So I think he's done that a couple times there, and so is requesting that amount a little bit. That amount there. And then there is 2, I'll do the Caney Fork one, 2 vested DXD claims. So this is for Caney Fork from September 2020 to January 2022. So there's a couple of these coming in here. So it's helpful to think about how to track these and make sure to check. And I think maybe one thing that's a little bit different from this proposal is this is now the second claim proposal that Caney Fork has made, and so you want to make sure that Caney Fork is not claiming any DXD that it had previously claimed before, and so that's what you can kind of see in this image here that I can't zoom in on there, but so you can see this one is the DXD claimed from the previous proposal last June that has already been claimed. And so even though all this 2.78 has vested now since September 2020, this is the only amount that's eligible to be claimed. So that's the key thing to check. And then this proposal is also one of the first ones that has started counting DXD from 2022. And 2022 is different than previous ones because previously it was a 2-year vest with a 1-year cliff. So that's how we're calculating all of that. Whereas now it's a 3-year vest with the 1-year cliff here. So you can see only you're able to claim once it hits 33% or a third, then you're able to begin claiming that DXD. So I think there was a call to attention from Ali about how to claim your vested DXD. So I think there will be some of those more coming through. In addition to the Caney Fork one, there is Venke's vesting DXD claim, which yeah, he went through here as well. And then there's also some from the 4.9 DXD from Arbitrum failed proposals. So you can see the sheet here, and then yeah, this is the discussion item for the failed Arbitrum proposals, because we were using DXD, but that means you actually have to put DXD on the line, and some of these proposals did not go through. So I guess actually this is, oh, we got more. Yeah. So these were the 2.4 there, and then 4.9 here. And I guess another thing is on here. But I guess, does this mean there are separate, is this separate than the rewards conversation? Because obviously if you're staking DXD, then you're putting your DXD at risk so that you can get the rewards back. But I guess there's no DXD in there, so we're not claiming the rewards, but this is not to do with the rewards. Is that correct?
No, this is not to do with the rewards. This is just the staking bounty, and yeah, the staking only, not the bounty.
So I think in general, the rewards there were like a little too high, because it would be 0.1. And then this is actually some of the problem, is that you had to stake more. You had to stake a lot of DXD for just doing these kind of proposals. So I think the rewards were a little bit high, but if we are doing rewards, I think then that should be the risk of like, well, I lost some of my DXD, but I got all these different rewards, and maybe those are like more. So I think the rewards and the lost element are unimportant. Yeah, those both factor in. I know King Fork also has some DXD there. I think it's less. It's actually, I don't think I have any on failed proposals. So, but we have to figure out how to get that DXD out at some point. Actually, just on that, because I don't have it on the agenda. I think we were looking at trying to do some. No, actually, I do have it on the agenda, so we'll get to that. Never mind. Cool. Yeah, there's, I think that's it. Well, the other one, what we have here, there's two different ones from Ross, because they said there's two different funding and voting power schemes. So he did one on the old one that might be deprecated in time, and then he submitted the same one on the new scheme right here. And so this was a DAO Talk post about Ross leveling up to level 7. And this, it's basically a contingency request as part of the budget. And so there was a DAO Talk post about this, and then this would be the proposal approving that. And it's still in the boosting phase. And it looks like I didn't see this when I made the agenda, but there is, yeah, another vested DXD claim here from MMDHR, Melanie, for doing a lot of for the work for Contributor Action. You see it's from March 2021 to December 2021. Good question. What does MMDHR?
Melanie, did I guess just to compare to Chris's there, what you're missing the first months of 2022 or not?
You mean of 2021? Oh, no.
Well, now that we're in 2023, 2 months in, or what are we? Yeah, 2 months in. Should you have? Yeah. Did you just exclude? Were you just looking at this for 2021 versus 2022?
Yeah. I'm just claiming them for 2021. Just doing some accounting stuff, and I'm just doing it for 2021. But now that you're kind of discussing this, I will add on my next proposal just some more color around it. Like this, for instance, was my first DXD claim, and then maybe I'll just include more details now that we've kind of been talking about it.
So yeah, I guess in general, if people are going to do these DXD claims, like as of a certain date, is it important to make sure as of that date you claim all DXD that you're doing, or is it okay to do that for like the general practice? Should you claim everything that's possible, or is it okay to claim a portion of what is possible? Because that makes it a little more confusing.
I think a lot of at least I'm speaking maybe for myself and Candy Fork, there's some like tax related things with this. So I don't, I think maybe people claiming amounts related to that, like there. So that would be, and I don't see a big, like, I think the important thing is you're very clear on it, because no matter when you claim, there will be a, like, I think the one that I did was from February 3rd, but like, I don't know, February 8th, it's probably going to be like another, I can't do that here, another 0.6 or point, let's see actually. So how much is this going to go up? Yeah, like 0.6 or 7. That's just from the time, and I still have this proposal another like 5 days. So there's always going to be a little bit of gap. I think the key thing is like, yeah, can you verify it? And I think it's very important to like use the same spreadsheet. And so just like having the previous record of everything you've claimed, I think is important for that.
Yeah, we there are systems where we could put this all into, put everyone's in like one fell swoop. We can put everyone's DXD into vesting contracts if we wanted to.
Talked about many times. So I'm always open. I don't think I can really do that, but I'm open to, yeah, doing that for everyone. But in the meantime, I know people, this is part of people's compensation. So
yeah, we have a lot of manual processes in our autonomous DAO.
it's true. It's true. Okay, we can keep going here. We got a little long, a long proposal roundup, but there's not as much actually on the on Gnosis chain. Yeah, so we have Space Inch. I actually thought I voted that for this morning. So this is actually the last Space Inch proposal. It's just for $4,890. So they had, yeah, I think this is for December. They stopped about midway through December and off-boarded them there. So this is the last of that. And then there is a Vinci reimbursement and for stipend and entity formation. I think there's another one of these also from MMDHR, the old funding power scheme here. And then, yeah, the other proposal that is boosting and will be interesting to see how it affects these, and we need to move this, is to deregister the funding and voting power scheme on Gnosis chain. So this is the same thing that we talked about on Mainnet, which we have the two contribution schemes that are the same, except for one allows for multiple redeems. And so this would deregister that one here. And then the last item that is still pending boosting that I did this morning was a signal proposal to adjust the swapper and ENS Treasury NAV liquidity weight ratio. So this is a discussion we had the last, we had at the forum. We talked a little bit on the DXD Monetary Policy Committee about adjusting this, and this proposal would simply lower the liquidity rate ratio to 10% for swapper token and then raise it to 50% for ENS. And so just a reminder on like how that works now, right? You can see now swapper is at 25% contribution to the Treasury NAV value. And so this would be, yeah, a proposal to change it to 10% and raise that to ENS. The thought being that a lot of the swapper tokens prices, especially in the last week, has moved around a lot, which is good for swapper and good for swapper and ultimately good for DXDAO. But in terms of managing the DXDAO like Treasury NAV and the redemption process, it can be manipulated a little bit, and especially because there's such little swapper liquidity, the more that if ETH and stablecoins are taken out in redemption proposals, then that actually like adjusts, it rebalances the Treasury to the non-core assets, which are not being taken out of the redemption proposals. And so like the more that would happen, we basically it would make sense from a Treasury perspective to start selling some of the non-core assets so that they go back to their previous weight. But I don't think we're interested in kind of selling that right now. But like this is a key number that I've been looking at, where this was about 2.7, 2.8% when the starting in before the token model passed, and that's kind of gone up a bit there because the stablecoins and ETH percentage have moved, but we haven't been touching any of the non-core assets. So I think this proposal would help balance that out a little bit. And then for ENS, like that's a very liquid token. It can be, help support the treasury, but still the primary focus I think that is from a governance perspective. Cool. And I just did want to talk, I don't know if there's any questions on that, or anything else on Gnosis chain or mainnet proposals. Cool. I will say, and Keenan's saying a lot on mainnet today. I really enjoy the more proposals on mainnet, and I think I'm becoming very favored the 8-day proposal period, because I think it is like helpful almost to see something, be like, okay, I'm gonna process that. Maybe I give it a first read. That sometimes 4-day, 5-day period, 1 day of boosting, and then it's really just 4 days very quickly, especially can happen over the weekend. And I also think there's just it's nice that there's a lot of proposals on mainnet, but they're all kind of, I don't know, big proposals that people can kind of understand as opposed to just individual contributor proposals. So I've definitely enjoyed the governance on mainnet because it operates, I think, at a better pace for the DAO as a whole, while allowing guilds themselves to go a little bit more into the weeds there, but not having that affect as much the general the overall DAO governance. Yeah, I think we need to talk about, we could kind of talk about some of that. I think that's Keenan saying about, does it make sense to extend proposal window on Gnosis chain? And just to give an example, this proposal, I think, should take 8 days, right? Because I think this would be fine to vote on there. But it's, that would only be to get people more involved. But I don't think it's worth it for the DAO to spend $500 or more than that to pass this proposal, especially when I get people to vote on it. So I think it makes sense to do single proposals like this on Gnosis chain. But I guess the one other thing I will say on this proposal I forgot to mention is I'm also going to submit this same proposal to the DXD snapshot. I think for things related to the treasury like this, I think it's important that we start engaging DXD holders more and more. And so, I'm going to be creating a corresponding proposal today on that. Cool. That's it for the proposal roundup. Had a lot to go through there. Any other thoughts and comments on live proposals? Cool. Keenan, do you want to introduce your gradients and kick off or give us an update on the vision, mission, and strategy statements?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Hey, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. I just found out the family I was helping out with the last couple of days tested positive for COVID, so I'm dealing with that this morning. Radio Keenan, yeah. Just getting my screen share set up here. Can we see my window?
Yes, loud and clear.
I did leave a gradient meme in the governance chat. I had to do it before someone else did. I accused Dirk, but I don't know if he's here. Cool. Yeah. So this has been one of our kind of big focuses the last few weeks. Before we get started, big thank you to Ross G and therefore Kenny Fork for kind of helping facilitate this process. Of course, Voice Guild as well, and the DX Voice side of things. We'll get into context in a minute here. Of course, have the fun image generation as I normally do. For the contents, going to give some context and then chat slogan, which is new, vision, mission, strategy, and what's next. The main goal of this is to contextualize. I have chatted individually one-on-one with quite a few people, but if I haven't with you yet, that's no big deal. That's the expectation for this presentation here, is to kind of bring everyone up to speed, make sure we're all kind of happy with it. And we'll chat about what's next in a minute here. But just to get moving, goals have only ever been informally established, is something that I said a lot at the retreat. And that has kind of led to some organizational challenges, leadership-related challenges. Really left us confused on product direction very often, in the sense that we weren't all unified on what we're doing, where we're going. And it has led to some contention. So as a result of phase 2, as I say here, we've been kind of looking into and formalizing the process of having these formal statements that we can look back to and refer to. Of course, chatting through product strategy calls, in-person combos, DX retreat. So as I say here, goal of this Prezi is to set goals. So the state's feeling really good, but we want to have a bit of a public dialogue. And then the statements will be formalized and set through phase 3, which we're currently kind of expecting for early March, based on the way everything's been rolling so far. And yeah, so I guess let's hop right into slogan, which may be a bit of a surprise, but it's simply enable community freedom, which is what we had discussed at the DX retreat 2022. So I can say that here. It functions similar to We Decentralized DeFi, which informally exists now. Again, is kind of just a tagline that was used. The reason that we moved this from vision to a slogan is really, there's a handful of reasons. It is a strong statement, but it has a lot of different interpretations. It's not really specific. Sky actually did a very good write-up on the forum shortly after the retreat saying, how do we enable community freedom if we don't know what we're enabling, who communities are, and what the freedom is, which is a very real interpretation, which is why this is so strong as a slogan, because once you have a better idea of what the actual vision is and how we get there through a mission statement, the idea of enable community freedom makes a lot more sense. Of course, I say here it's short. We need a bit more clarity, and we need to formalize a slogan because we have something informal. It'd be better to have some unity around a slogan. I also note here, slogan is not equal to just a marketing gimmick or meme. I saw some fun comments about that in the chats this week, maybe last week. I think it does have a very strong or real power to summate, and I say elevator pitch of an elevator pitch here, and really it kind of should encapsulate everything that we're doing. So that leads us right to the vision side of things. With the vision statement, DXDAO envisions a world where it has provided every community with the tools, knowledge, and freedom to govern itself effectively and equitably, leveraging decentralized technologies. So for a bit of context on that, and I'll go back just so we can have a second look. It helps contextualize our future, the obvious thing. The main thing is kind of inspiring and bringing everyone together towards a common and clear goal. What do we imagine the future to look like? And through all of the discussions at retreat and a lot of one-on-ones, that goal it always revolved around communities and decentralization and autonomy, and how do we kind of collectively reach that status. So if we all understand this, it can lead to stronger financial strategic decisions. Of course, how do we reach that end goal? Taking a step back, what are we doing? Does it get us there, etc. For kind of our current focuses. I also note here, we are one of the first truly on-chain entities. I think we have a pretty unique insight to how communities not only survive but thrive in this kind of environment. And we've also never been perfect, but I think that is actually an important factor in our repertoire expertise. We've kind of grown, or I suppose are still growing as we're going through this process, into something a lot larger and more reliable, robust, which I think is a very strong place to be. And of course, we believe all communities should have these tools. So another quick look here. Okay, I've skipped the vision. I don't know how to go back. There we go. So again, envisions a world where it's provided every community with the tools, knowledge, and freedom to govern itself effectively and equitably, leveraging decentralized technologies. And of course, this focuses a lot on kind of governance. And one of the main things and topics that we've discussed a lot in the last year has been how governance maybe hasn't been our primary and focal focus, yet is one of our strongest and key aspects of our organization. So this kind of rallies around that a little bit more. As for the mission, which I'll explain a bit more what that is in a second, our mission is to create and support a suite of scalable, efficient, and wholly decentralized products to provide communities with freedom from external influences. So if a vision is kind of a glimpse of the future, a mission is more actively what we're doing and aiming to do to get there. And of course, this is another not cemented point, but the goal has kind of always informally been a product suite. What that specifically looks like is yet to be kind of formally and finally discussed into a final statement, but has been kind of ascertained in a direction with the phase 2 proposal. The purpose of this is to simply ascertain the notion that we are working towards a product suite, but also kind of providing the how, which is an important and missing factor as well. We're decentralized first, and what can we do to lead others is effectively our mission. How do we lead to a world of sovereignty and autonomy with us at the forefront? And more importantly, in active decision-making, what can we do to better understand roadblocks to the world? And I think Chris, you said this a lot, but we are in a unique position that we understand best what those roadblocks are, being decentralized first and from the beginning. So building for ourselves is kind of a key and important factor of that when related to governance, which should lead to a self-sufficient ecosystem, pushing away from external influence, financial, government, etc. And of course, some keywords at the bottom: decentralization, autonomy, scalability, and transparency. So another quick look at that. Create and support a suite of scalable, efficient, and wholly decentralized products to provide communities with freedom from external influences. And another thing I want to kind of mention about this, I was just thinking about this morning. Like I mentioned on the ascertained notion statement, there hasn't been a formal discussion or I guess anything on chain beyond the direction setting for that kind of product focus. That's something that I believe we're going to be focusing on discussing on the latter half of this first half of the year, or rather first quarter of the year. So within the next month and a half or so, it should be a big focal discussion, at least from our end. And the important thing here is that similar to phase 2, we're coming from a world where we don't have anything. And maybe this doesn't have the exact specificity pointing towards whether or not it's a suite of products or product suite, a flagship. The important part is that we discuss that and formalize that. And I don't think this is the end all be all. There can be minor adjustments as we go, but it does encapsulate kind of the narrative that we're trying to communicate. Cool. And then Sky, I'll let you step in here for DXBiz's contribution, the strategy statement. Just let me know when you want me to cycle through.
Sure. So, yeah, I like how the Enable Community Freedom became the slogan, and I think the vision and mission work well together. And so, strategy, the vision, the mission, and strategy all go together. I think our strategy might be slightly different than like how you might apply a strategy within like a traditional corporation, but this is the best we've gotten so far, and we can obviously, if there's feedback and things, we can adjust this. But strategy statement is DXDAO will set the standard for effective decentralized operation, leading by example and demonstrating a process that enables exceptional decision-making, resource allocation, and development of its products and ecosystem. If you could go to the next slide. And so the purpose in general of strategy to fit in with mission and vision is how we are going to pursue our mission in order to accomplish the vision. So the tricky thing here is that, what we are doing, what DXDAO has been doing, has always been pretty much at the forefront. I mean, there are more organizations doing similar or trying to do similar things nowadays, but like DXDAO has been doing this for a few years now. It probably was at more of the forefront back in the past, and we're still. It seems like DXDAO always makes an effort to stay at the edge of that decentralized frontier and spectrum in the decisions that it's making, and this is all fitting into that. I don't think what DXDAO is setting out to do has ever been accomplished. So whether it's the overall point of DXDAO or the different initiatives within DXDAO, whether it's contributor experience or how people can contribute to the DAO, or treasury management as a DAO, or owning its products as a DAO, these are all aspects that most others haven't done and haven't figured out. And so DXDAO basically gets to define these things. And we talk about this with DAO counsel, like if you're doing, if you're doing law or counsel for a DAO, the first thing you do as in that position is to even start defining what that even means for a DAO. And so continually we're seeing the different initiatives within DXDAO all sit on this frontier of defining this path. That's where these important, I guess, words matter when you're defining this path, and then you're taking this path, and you're making mistakes, and you're figuring out good things, and you're showing others what to do. But we always say it takes initiative, and then it takes experimenting, learning from what happened, what you've tried, iterating, changing, improving that, and then trying it again in the improved manner, all on a path towards success, aiming for success. And success is a measurement that has, can be debated, but staying true to your core values and trying to achieve success with those core values, because there's always a balance of any of these core values in order to achieve like a short-term success versus sticking to the values you want in your community, and then aiming and then caring more about long-term success. And that's, I think, term success is what DXDAO's main objective is, rather than short-term wins. If you could go to the next slide, Keenan. Yeah, and so just in more detail and relate strategies, DXDAO continually is practicing decentralized governance, making decisions, using more support products that are building the things that DAOs can benefit, but it doesn't necessarily need to do everything itself. And I think is getting better at learning how to bring in other teams and other people and other projects that fit in with the mission and vision and strategy of DXDAO, and put those together to achieve its mission. So building and or supporting all of those things comes together. Bring this all together into an ecosystem that leverages decentralization, things not possible in centralized organizations. And so this comes a little bit back. This doesn't have super great detail here, but we can make it more detailed. But even I did a presentation on why on-chain matters, and really the reason on-chain matters is because it is the only way that allows you to actually do and achieve true things in a decentralized manner. And so we kind of part of the education and showing the world why DXDAO is doing things the way it does is you also have to teach why they're acknowledge and talk about the things that are bad in centralized systems, and the weak points in the weak points of failure in a centralized system. And by learning about those, you understand why decentralization matters, and so why decentralization is so critical and important in DXDAO's mission and vision and strategy. And so, overall, it's not an easy path, but we think it's an important path. And so what's cool is, like, if you put this whole thing together, this slide or this deck right here, it reminds me a little bit of like Yearn's blue pill presentation, which is very high level, but the whole point of it, and the whole point of these things here, the slogan, the vision, the mission, and the strategy, is so that if you were able to show this to people, they would very clearly understand what the point of the organization in the world is. They can see the things that are happening in that organization, and then if they are excited about it and the future that it's leading to, they would want to get involved and be a part of it as well. And so this is almost a sales pitch to the entire Web3 space, and then eventually, in the future, communities include Web2 communities, and then even non-technical communities. Those people also will see this overall summary and decide to either want to participate and help achieve this, or they may want to watch from the sidelines. But eventually, I think it will, whether we do it or other people do it, it will eventually happen. So it's cool to see this all come together. I think that's the last page, right, Keenan?
Last page of strategy, yeah. I'm going to get through a little bit of what's next. So, of course, related to restructuring and refocus, and as I said at the beginning of the call, this is mainly contextual, getting everyone up to speed with kind of where the effort is. This isn't the final copy. If everyone that I have spoken to, for better or worse, is feeling pretty good about this. So we're quite happy with it, but totally open to feedback, and want the entire community, including, of course, DXC holders, everyone involved, to kind of have a look and say about where we're going. The important thing is, does it align with your interpretation of what we're doing, why we're here, and how do we kind of unify that together into one picture? So this will be finalized and put onto DAO Talk probably within a couple hours. I finished that post up last night. I just need to do a little bit of a revision to one section. So mainly just inviting everyone to come, give it a read and participate. There's a little bit more context than maybe was even shared here. And then a final submission will be as a clause for the phase 3 proposal. And that's expected early March, with the final deliverable after this effort being the kind of flagship viability statement / wireframe effort, which is actively being worked on. ONU key is broken. What's wrong with my ONU keys?
Is this a Canada joke?
Oh,
which actually turns out to be a Canada joke if it's about.
It's a boot. There's 2 O's.
No.
But yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Why is that abbreviated?
Yeah,
I don't know. I was just.
It's good. All right. Well, yeah, we just been mindful of time here. This was great, and I guess we'll have discussion on the forum, more specifics. I don't know if there's anyone who wants to comment now. Just my initial quick comment is I really like how it's kind of starting at very basics and kind of building its way out. You have this vision, mission, strategy, and I think there's probably one more layer of that needs to be maybe fleshed out a little bit more. I don't know if it's part of this, but in general, that is a layer that helps it tie it more to product development in the current suite of products. I think we have the core, and you were kind of talking about this is the things that could flow through that, but thinking about that extra layer and how it ties, I think, more directly to the products is something we could work on after this or going forward.
Yeah, I acknowledge that near the beginning, that this, of course, ties everything together and strongly influences decision making, but doesn't specifically action our actual product focus. I believe that's something that I want to touch on with this kind of flagship initiative.
Yeah.
Alongside it, because that's, of course, where it's most relevant.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for that. We can, just quickly get through the other 2 items on the agenda here. The first one, let me share my screen again, is Gen OTC offered to DXDAO. This is from Connor, and basically Connor has, I think, 2.5% of all gen out there. DXgov has currently no gen, and so there is a dependency of gen, and so this would be basically potentially a sale to the DAO, but we're kind of thinking about this through. So I don't know if you have any thoughts or maybe what you're thinking with this.
Yes, essentially I've just got a bunch of gen that I don't have too much use for anymore, but obviously it's quite critical. We've seen in the DAO's operations and could be potentially an issue in future for the DAO with like a lot of money in its treasury and this like I don't know if you want to call it an attack vector or what, but with gen it's there's a fair bit of reliance there. So anyway, yeah, just an offer if the DAO wanted the gen at what I paid for it. If not, then I would be sticking up like a limit order for what I paid for it, so that anyone could go and buy it. And you know, I think I would rather give the DAO the first option, because if I would stick it up for a limit order, then anyone, whatever their intentions, could just go and buy it, and I don't know what they would do with it, you know. So thought the DAO having first option would be the right thing to do.
I definitely think a chunk of, it says 1.25 million, 1.5 million gen. I definitely think a chunk would be beneficial to have in DXgov, because DXgov doesn't have a gen and hasn't run on that. And that actually ends up centralizing gen, because people don't get the gen rewards for submitting the proposals. And so initially DXgov was funded with like 100,000 gen. I think we re-upped that maybe like 2 or 3 times. There's probably, it's burned through maybe like 200,000 gen over that time. So I think at least having at least that amount in the DAO would make sense. I also think the gen game is actually a very, and really this taking the holographic consensus game in general, but whatever that game is actually a pretty important part of governance, even though it can be manipulated. Like that is important. So I think wanting to have that not be disrupted. So in my best case scenario, you have the DAO have a lot, and then stakeholders of the DAO, anyone who wants governance to move and kind of have control, should be holding gen for some amount of time. And I think, as they're saying in the chat here, eventually going to be switching to DXD. So this kind of like affects things there. But yeah, so I don't know if there's maybe there's like an amount that the DAO should do. And then I guess like the question is at what price, but yeah, was there anyone else? 51%. Well, it's not, it's 51% of Connors, but there's other gen out there. Yeah, so any thoughts here? I'll write something up kind of encapsulating my thoughts in the forum. If no one else.
Yeah,
Sky.
so my thoughts are, given that we're still on a gen-based system, even though we've had plans for a long time to go away, we're still there. DXgov should have gen. Even taking the whole amount, I mean, whether it's half of that or the full amount, like 20K, like DXDAO probably need to acquire gen all along the way for a long time anyway, and it should probably have more gen. This is via this, via Connor's purchases. This is how DXDAO would acquire gen anyway, probably, right? So this is just, maybe we wouldn't have done it in this large amount, but I don't see it hurting DXDAO to have all that gen, and it's not a significant amount of money. Plus, if we abandon gen totally, then whatever, it doesn't matter. But there is still, it doesn't eliminate the DAO having the gen doesn't really eliminate the risk that someone else could then go buy another 1.5 million gen and still do an attack. So it would just probably be more expensive to do it, I guess, which is kind of the whole point of gen. But the problem is that gen doesn't have significant value, that it's not that hard to attack. So I would say,
but I think just on that point, taking gen, if the DAO has the gen, then that's off the market. And then if someone wants to come and buy 1.5 million gen like Connor did and manipulate it, it's going to be a
higher cost to it.
and
Totally.
it's a higher cost, and it's kind of working. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there could have been a world where DXgov just acquires tons and tons of gen, right? And that's the only reason gen has value. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I recommend anyone that participates in DXgov governance, like wants to, like, you know, in the same way you want to have reputation, I think it's important to have gen. Yeah. Cool.
That's Connor's point about splitting it. That's not a bad idea to have some of the gen. So maybe the DXgov buys it all and then delivers some of it to a multi-sig, which could prevent or partly prevent attacks. That's a good idea.
I kind of, I don't know. I feel like that like protects against, like, sometimes the attacks are good, or like that's the game in a way. I don't know, but this is my.
I mean, I think the biggest source of an attack in the near future could be something like if the change from gen to DXD, like if that was just continually down boosted, like if the gen is all in the DAO, then the DAO can't do anything about it, and it's forever then dependent on gen, and like you sort of like get stuck in this limbo. Whereas if it was in at least a large chunk of it in the multi-sig, then the multi-sig could just like upvote or up boost that proposal that changes it from gen to DXD, or whatever the process is, whether it's move all the assets into the new avatar, or you know, so I think that's like quite a big reason for maybe having a bunch in the multi-sig for that
Or
proposal. But
again, just out loud, a guild itself too. Use another way of doing it, so it's not the multi. Because I think that like just because I have this like thing about, well, there's this cabal of the DXgov multi-sig that actually control everything because they have, like, you know, and that's all my worry about, like creating some enlightened or above group of governance rather than like, yeah, because I don't know, I'm a, like, I think things like DXgov was kind of on a path that it's not clear who is DXgov, and it kind of needs to be open to these different things. And I don't know, I like would kind of be looking forward to the Gen Wars, because I don't know what that would lead to in terms of like how DXgov would respond. I think would be an interesting kind of thing. But anyway, this is now where DXD Wars is even better. This is the key. So yeah, I mean, just to some of it sounds like Sky and myself are, you know, definitely supportive of at least the DAO having a chunk of this. If people want multi-sig or guild to do it, I think that would make sense too. But I definitely, at least like half of it, I think we could kind of do now. And I think probably at the prices it would be with that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a desire to sell it all, I think the DAO should just take it all, and then the DAO can make a decision to give some away to the multi-sig, right?
Yeah.
I would probably, I mean, do whichever you want, but I would probably advise doing it the other way around, because if it goes to the DAO and then someone else gen blocks it, moving out of the DAO, double. Whereas if you do it around, the multi-sig can decide how much to keep and how much to give to the DAO easier than the other way around. Like, I'm just thinking, if someone saw that the DAO had all of it and then wanted to block it ever moving out again, then, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here again. I think we should, I guess we have not created guilds mainnet guilds for all of the different guilds. But to me, it actually makes sense for the guilds to hold the gen itself, because we also think like the guilds themselves should eventually, I think, can be proposing things and voting them there. So it's not even, just the one sig.
So it'd probably be like a treasury guild, which we don't have a treasury guild just
No,
yet.
no. I think Operations Guild, DXgov Guild, Voice Guild, they should all have. I mean, that makes sense, right? They should all have gen. Those are the people like, and that's a good group to hold it rather than just like one multi-sig, because then there becomes some discussion there. And like in general, like the ideal scenario for me is that DXDAO stakeholders, all of them have a bunch of gen, right? Not just one, but like all of them do. So if there is kind of like gen where you can kind of play with that, and I think, yeah, having that on the different guilds, even if they're multi.
Then logistically, the dev multi-sig does this transaction and then distributes it to a bunch of a handful of the guilds. Makes sense.
I mean, I would like to have some DAO approval for the transaction to lay out like the terms that could be on Gnosis chain or whatever as a proposal. Yeah. So maybe there's 6 locations, right? There's 5 multi-sigs and the DAO itself. But that could be facilitated by the single multi-chain multi-sig, if that's easier. Cool. Yeah, that's my preference, I think, for that. Maybe that's a good way of accomplishing all those things. Maybe half goes to the DAO and half goes outside of it through the different multi-sigs. Cool. Connor, I think it would be good to have that as a proposal, just whatever the actual, I mean, you have the DAO Talk one, but I'll try to comment on it today just to put some of this context we talked about here. But yeah, as long as we have a proposal that's approved by the DAO, I think we can work through the multi-sig.
Yeah, like if people just let me know the preferred like way of doing it and what to propose, whether to do a signal proposal or like a member balancer, Gnosis chain, mainnet, whatever, then yeah, I'll just do whatever people think.
Cool. Oh yeah, because you'll have to get the funds. Because it'll probably be easier for you to get the funds from.
Is there enough in Gnosis chain base? Or
there is, but it's like that's like a third of it, maybe, or like a fourth of it. And so I'm
right. Okay.
Over that amount, it makes sense. My number is like $5,000. If it's like above $5,000, I think it's easier to do mainnet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
you're getting a lot of reputation, Connor. Every time you get one of these proposals passed, you're up in your reputation because you get 500 rep for.
Yeah, I think one more and I might hit the 0.1% threshold for the.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course you can't your ETH reimbursements, right? These ETH reimbursements from the DAO that we will get when we do the gas refunds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it is like ended up being paid, but there's like a delay for that, obviously. But that's like Cool. All right, just briefly, I don't know if we lost Venki. Maybe we just did. Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking had put into the forum yesterday is the increase the swapper WETH fee. So swappers had some price action. I think for LPs, it's very easy to move the price a lot. So increasing some of the fees on that. It's 1% on Gnosis chain, and if you look, some of the LPs on Uniswap is on mainnet, I think might be an Arbitrum, are moving to a 1% tier. Yeah, sorry, it is on our Arbitrum where they're doing that. So this would potentially raise fees for this pool. We have to figure out a little bit it's a little bit harder because we have to use Arbitrum base, which is a little, as you say, rickety. But I think this is a good idea. I like higher fees in general for LPs, for lower for tail assets. Yeah, so any thoughts on that? We can kind of take it to the forum. And then just the other also worth checking out things. There was a proposal draft from Kapartki about establishing a DXDAO Treasury Guild, a very detailed proposal from there. And then I wrote a response that I think, was a response and a reply to this, but a lot of different things I think about Treasury, what the Treasury means to the DAO and how it can kind of should be functions. So yeah, do take a look at that there, and that will be an interesting. We'll maybe probably discuss that next week on next week's call. There's a nice DXD model token goals post from Ross on the last DXD monthly that is perhaps worth your time. How to claim vested DXD. This is, yeah, we have the forum on how to do it, and there's an updated spreadsheet, so you are able to calculate your 2022 ones pretty easily, because that is a slightly different calculation with the 3-year vest and 1-year cliff. And then, yeah, as I said before, the Operations Guild contributor event stipend draft proposal there, so you can check out that before it hits on chain. Cool. That's it from here. Sorry for running a little bit over here, but thanks everyone for joining.
Cheers, Chris.